Charles Darwin and Marx are the biggest devils in the world. Yeah, I'll be doing a talk on those two as well at some point when I have time to get around to it. But yes, we'll be talking about Marx and Darwin. So it sought to integrate the secular understanding of the ancient world with the dogma that was implicit in the revelations of Christianity. How do you take religious dogma? How do you take what is now the truth of the Bible? How do you take these claims that are the eternal truths of God and harmonize that with the secular world? How does one do that? And this was a puzzle. This was a problem that theologians had to face, and therefore they needed a tool, a mental tool for doing so. So the scholastic Thomas Aquinas, who lived from 1225 to 1274, used this dialectic method extensively in his Summa Theologica. So do understand. Now you've got Aristotle, who has this incredible way of finding truth, right? This great philosopher who found truth, who developed a method for defining objective truth. This is taken by Thomas Aquinas, this theologian, who uses it to, how do we find truth within our theology, right? So Summa Theologica is a comprehensive work of theology. Thomas would pose a question. Then he would present objections to the Christian understanding of the issue. So he'd pose a question and he'd look at what are the objections. Then he would provide responses to these objections. So which means you have to listen. What are the objections? Now I will tell you, when I got into Islam, I would, under a pseudonym back then, because I lived in the Middle East, I went and annoyed everybody by asking questions and making statements and seeing what was I getting back. What were people using as the standard arguments? What was the default propaganda, if you will? They would give me these answers. They would throw me back these answers, and I would take them. I would write them down. I'd make a note of them, and then I'd go research every one. That took a long time. That was not a 5-minute process. That was months and months and months of detailed work, discovering that each one is false because you chase down so many rabbit holes just looking at one little detail. All right, you've got to turn it over and look at it from all sides. Right. So by the same token, when I annoy people, I am actually bluntly taking every objection I'm getting. I'm taking every argument. I'm assuming, look, when I enter into this argument, and this comes from my former career, let's say, when you walk into an environment, you have to ask yourself, is there danger in this environment? Is there someone here to kill me? He's not going to advertise it. He's going to deceive. He's going to lie. So ask yourself, how are they lying to me? How is this propaganda? Where are they trying to lead my thoughts? What are they trying to lead my thoughts away from? Where are they trying to focus me? Ask yourself these questions, right? So I take all of these things and I say, okay, this is the standard defense. This is the standard propaganda. Now let's go take it apart. Now let's look at it. Okay, let me see if there's anything I missed. The first hospitals were founded in Byzantium by the Christians. The Muslims literally copied everything when they took over Byzantium. Yeah, they copied a lot. Muslim scholars seem to love to pretend to make Islam free of contradiction by learning and teaching many ways to lie. Yes, they do. Because of Islam went after their hospitals, universities, coffee, mathematics, algebra, honestly, said they got coffee from the Christian Ethiopians. Like, seriously, they should sit and be quiet. Yeshua Summa is a very good starting point when you start reading Thomas Aquinas if people are interested. And it is ironic that all the new ideas of the modern progressive movement are so old, going back to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Correct, Adrian Ionescu. And they are calling us conservatives and Christians bigots. I know, it's crazy, and they're borrowing pagan ideas and, as we will see, occult ideas. So, Thomas poses a question. He presents objections to this Christian understanding of the issue. He then provides responses to these objections based on the Aristotelian dialectic, and then he synthesizes the discussion to reach a conclusion, right? So, now, then this leads us to a Christian scientific revolution. So, in conclusion, the rediscovery of Aristotle's texts in the High Middle Ages was an intellectual milestone that reintroduced the West to systematic reasoning and the dialectic method. So this is not a comprehensive, exhaustive breakdown of the method itself. It's the history of the method, all right? So it revolutionized medieval scholarship. It provided scholars with a powerful tool to work through puzzles and difficulties in a range of fields, from theology to natural philosophy. Don't forget, philosophers and scientists were called natural philosophers. The early term for science and scientists was natural philosophy and natural philosophers, right? That's important. Setting the stage for the intellectual awakening of the Renaissance and the scientific revolution that followed. Right. So this is William of Ockham. Right. So this is a picture of William of Ockham. He lived from 1287 to 1347. He was another famous intellectual figure of the era. He lived a little bit later than Thomas Aquinas. And he said, it is futile to do with more things that which can be done with fewer. This is a dictum known as Ockham's laser, right? Some of you may have heard of that. Now, there will be different ways of phrasing this thing, but apparently that's the original phrase. That's what he originally said. It is futile to do with more things that which can be done with fewer. Just remember, Ockham's laser. So, the atheists then come along, and of course they rewrite history. So, Cyprian Catholic says, even in university I'm marked down because I've written my papers against secularists and atheists like Nietzsche. My professor marked down my paper because I showed Nietzsche fetishized power. Interesting, yeah, of course. I mean, you can't go against that in the universities, which are completely leftist, right? Yes. Anyway, atheists cannot even prove that there's an external world. Even Bertrand Russell admits that we, strictly speaking, cannot prove the external world because everything is in the mind. If you want to name one philosophy that is the source of most of our problems, nominalism. Actually, that does come up in this talk as well. You guys are going on about Occam's razor. And I said Occam's laser. Okay. They didn't have lasers in the 13th century. They did have razors. I know. Just so, by the way, that's not Thomas Aquinas. Sorry, that's not William of Ockham. Okay. That's Red Rackham. Just so you guys know. Ockham, Rackham, close enough. I'll give myself 8 out of 10 for accuracy on that. Yes, I know. It was a joke. Right. So, atheists have used this to say that if Luther was big on nominalism, and from Tintin, exactly, Deus Vult Veritatem, exactly. It was a joke. Okay. William of Ockham, Red Rackham. Okay, so yeah, that was... Okay, so now atheists have used this claim of William of Ockham. It is futile to do with more things that which can be done with fewer. Right? Occam's razor. They've used this to say that if science can explain something, God is no longer required. Right? So this has been a claim that they've tried to use this science, basically saying, well, if you see a field if you look in a field and you see all of these vegetables growing, there's no farmer because all that stuff's growing without the farmer. 10,000 thundering typhoons. Thank you, Sola Scriptura. You've got it. Exactly. So basically, if you see all these things growing in the field, you don't need the farmer.